just find the notes. There we go. Okay, so what I'm doing right now is I'm just playing the actual sample out of the sampler. Okay, as you can see right here, all the samples are played. They are also velocity sensitive. Very cool so far. Let's take a look again at our MIDI file. We started at C1 here, and if we look at into our sampler, we see that the sampler also starts at C1. Perfect. This is just a coincidence. So if it doesn't start there, you just basically come on. You just don't give me that. You select everything and move the notes around to where they are supposed to be. In this case, C1. Okay, very cool so far. Let's go one step further. Or maybe let's go one step back. Why would I want to do this? Or what other options would I have? Well, one other option is, of course, to sample just one note of your synth. And then using basically time stretch in your simpler or sampler instrument, whatever you have, to stretch this note to whatever pitch it is supposed to be. Now, there are some problems with this. One of them is, in my opinion, when you use, for example, envelopes or LFOs, you will have the problem that you will also increase the speed of your LFO when you use time stretch to pitch a sample up, and you will slow it down when you use it to get the pitch down. So not such a great option in my opinion. This is actually pretty close to what you get. For example, if I can show you here, if I go into one of my packs here, let's say we take, I don't know, some brass. Here we are. I take the strings. I know the strings are sampled that way. Let's just take the cello and let's just add the cello here. Okay, now what we see here is actually an instance of sampler. Same sampler. Oh, no, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. We see an instance of simpler. I guess this is simpler. Yes, it is. Sorry for that, guys. As you might have noticed, I'm doing this kind of on the while I'm recording, and when I think too fast or something like that, then it gets a little bit crazy and weird. Right, now I remember again. Sorry. You can always convert a simpler into a sampler and a sampler into a simpler. Very nice, right? Once I convert this, you see what they did. Basically, what you have here is each note is given a single slice. And if you look here, you see that someone did actually go through this and selected the correct note for each slice. It is also velocity sensitive, and this would be the next thing I will talk about in just a moment, which means that this slice here is triggered when you play at a very low velocity, and this slice here will be triggered when you play at the highest velocity. They are all assigned to the same key. and the selector is just going through. So actually the instruments you get in one of those expansion packs, they are sampled this way. So seems to be like we're on the right track here. Now, another thing, the nice thing is you can also put this into a simpler. Still works. You cannot edit it anymore. But what you can do with this, I guess, and most likely you can, is let's say you have you have a friend, he doesn't have the Lifeline suite. He only has Lifeline intro, for example, or standard. I think in standard the sampler is also not included. I'm not sure. Let's say he only has the intro version with, for example, he bought a Launchpad and has the intro version. But you have the awesome synths. Okay, you could sample some of them and give them the sampled instrument. Okay, and since he only has a version of simpler and not of sampler, you could convert this into a simpler, and it still works perfectly well. Another thought before I go to velocity is sorry for that. Another idea would, or another thought would be, think about what you really need coming from the analog synth. One good example would be envelopes. Do you need to have the envelope coming from the analog synth? Or could you just as well use the envelope here? Because the envelope will actually not affect your, maybe not so much affect your sound, okay? You want the analog filter and the analog oscillator, so you would not use the filter here, not necessarily, or not the pitch. But maybe for the volume envelope it would be a good idea to set the envelope on the synth itself to a very flat envelope and then use the integrated envelope in the simpler or sampler. Okay, let's go back to sampler. Now let's do what they did using different velocities. How can we achieve that? Well, it's actually not very difficult. And the way I show you is certainly not the only way, and I'm not saying it's the best way, but it is a way to do this. Okay, we go back to our MIDI track here, our MIDI source track. What we can do with this MIDI track is we select everything, and then we turn the envelope, the volume, the velocity down. Okay, and now we have this. Very nice. Copy this down here, and now I will basically, let's just check what is this. This is our sampled audio, right? This one is our sampled audio. This one is again the same MIDI track from here because we just recorded that one, so we don't actually need that one. Okay, perfect. So let's sample it again. This time at a much lower velocity. Okay, so that's what we do. We sample it again at a lower velocity. I'm actually just realizing that you can probably not hear what I'm saying. What I'm saying you can hear, but not what I'm playing here. Well, yeah, you basically have to take the metering then to believe me that you actually get sound from this. I'm sorry for that. I think I forgot to click some button to start this. Let's look what we got here, and this time maybe let's see if I can get it right. Yes, I did get it right. Perfect. Stop the recording as well, cut the clip to length, and cut it again. Very nice. Now we have basically the same clip, only quieter. Okay, nice. What do we do with that? Well, easy. We go into here, slice to new MIDI track, you might have guessed it. I say select sampler, beat offset again, and create a new instance of sampler. Okay, this is the quiet version of sampler, this is the loud version of sampler. when you do this and you do a lot of notes, a lot of velocities, make sure you actually name your tracks accordingly, because this can get very confusing if you don't do that. Okay, perfect. Now we have two versions of sampler. One with a quiet velocity, this one, and one with a louder velocity curve, this one. You can actually play this one as well. Turn this one off. It's the quiet one, and this one's playing, no one's playing, this one's playing. Okay, so this works perfectly fine. They're both playing. Now the last step we do is we create a new track, actually a MIDI track, and we go into the instruments and take an instrument rack, an empty instrument rack, and draw it into here. Okay, empty instrument rack, perfect. Open the lanes window here. Don't drop your instrument here, drop it here, okay? So press this button to open chains. In English, what is chains? Okay, perfect. Now we go here, check again, which is this is the loud one. So I just take this sampler and move it in here. And I might also rename it. Call it the loud one. Okay, perfect. Go here, this is the quiet one, I drag it to here and in here, and I rename it. Oh, sorry. Crap. I rename it. Oh, come on, give me a break. It was Control R. What did you just do? The quiet one. Very nice. Now, when I play this instrument, you see here that actually both are playing. That's not what we want. We want them to be velocity sensitive. Okay, the loud one should be playing when we have a high velocity, and the quiet one should be playing when we have a low velocity. But thankfully, here are basically the same buttons you also saw in the zone window of sampler. So what we can do here is we choose velocity, and there it is. We can actually just move that down here and this one up here, and if I play quietly, you can see by the indicator right here where I'm actually at. It just plays, oh, in this case, sorry, the loud one. Just move this one there and move this one there, and you fix that. So now it just plays the quiet one, and if I hit it harder, it plays the loud one. You can get very deep into this. You can sample at as many velocity settings as you like, but always keep in mind that each instance of sampler is by itself velocity sensitive. Okay? So what this means is that velocity to record an instrument with at different velocities only makes sense if the instrument actually sounds different at different velocities. Okay, if it doesn't, then you don't have to record it at different velocities, because then the velocity will only affect the actual volume. It's like you're turning the volume knob. Nothing else is going on there. If it's, for example, a piano or a cello or electric guitar, then the velocity with which you actually play the instrument, or the strength with which you hit the keys or the strings, makes a huge difference in the sound. So you would record those instruments, of course, at different velocity levels.